I'm going to take Donnie everywhere with me. That was such a great introduction. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. It's so meaningful to me. You know, running for Congress is not easy. I say every single day, this isn't a me proposition. I'd love it if it was. Because if it was just about me and it was who was best for the job, I'd by far and away be the easy choice. But that is not how politics works. That's not how you get elected to office. It's a we proposition. We have to want to change the country. We have to want that seat bad enough to lean in and go and make it happen. So I just want to thank Cathy so much for putting this on for me tonight. And also for Donnie D for co-chairing. I appreciate that very much. But I feel so blessed to have the two of you in my life because, you know, if you're surrounded by good people, it really augments and magnifies who you are as a person. It says a lot about you that people like you would show up. So I feel very blessed that all of you are here tonight. And Cathy, you have been such a blessing to me in such a short period of time. Like, you have changed my opinion of myself, what is possible for me in my life. And I really feel like with you in my corner, having all these people who are a blessing to me now here, I really feel like this is something that I can win. So a little bit about me, as Donnie said, I grew up in Northern California in a little town called Redding. Have you guys ever heard of Redding? Did you drive through it on your way somewhere else? So I grew up in this little teeny tiny town to cute little parents and cute little grandparents, and I had the most blessed little childhood. I did very well in school, good enough to get a full ride scholarship to a Christian university in Oregon. I went to college and realized I don't necessarily know what I want to be. I had been in GATE and AP for a really long time, and in this education cycle, I just didn't know exactly what I wanted to be. I knew I wanted to be somebody, but I didn't know who that somebody was yet. And so at the end of that year, I decided to go into the military. A lot of people from my little teeny tiny town went into the military, and most of my friends were in the intelligence community. They were linguists, they were analysts, doing something that I thought was very unique. So I thought, if I go and do that, then I can work for the CIA, the FBI, and have one of these cool jobs. I love, you know, crime dramas. That's my favorite thing to watch. So I thought that would be a cool job. So I went into the Marine Corps, which, as you know, of all the services, you know, the Navy SEALs got us beat as a part of the Navy, but I'm going to say that going into the Marine Corps, especially as a woman, is a very difficult choice. There's only 6% of the entire Marine Corps that are female Marines. Little teeny tiny bit of the service. So when I got into the Marine Corps, I got more than I asked for. I had held on to my virginity as a Christian, raised with Christian principles, for all the way until I got into the Marine Corps, until it was taken from me, against my will. And it was a pivotal moment in my life. It was very heavy, and I'm sure you don't want to hear about this, but trust me, the story gets better. I went to go talk to a chaplain who told me, you know, you grew up in a Christian family, and you have a strong foundation, so you get to make a choice that other people don't get to make. You get to decide if this is an event or if this is going to change your whole life. And I want you to go to bed tonight and I want you to pray about it. Whether you're willing to lay it down and give it to God, or whether it's something that's going to define you for the rest of your life. And at 19, I went to bed that night feeling really powerful. I was like, wow, I have control and command over this horrible thing that happened to me. It was so empowering. It was one of the most defining moments of my entire life. So I wouldn't even give that horrible experience back because of what it gave to me by way of resiliency, right? It really taught me a very interesting lesson. And then I got hit in the face with a softball. I smashed my face. I broke my elbow. I crushed my right ankle. I broke 2 ribs. I eventually ended up getting out of the service long before I wanted to. I thought I was going to retire from the Marine Corps, but that didn't happen. And if you get to know me better, you'll realize I'm a good finisher. I finish what I start. That's my thing. That's my brand. I always finish things. So I always felt like I had unfinished business when I got out of the Marine Corps. So after the Marines, I had a very interesting life in sales. I am probably one of the top 1% closers in the world at multiple industries, including vacation club sales, which you all know as timeshare. And no matter what you think of timeshare, people, it is the hardest thing to sell. Because every interaction starts with, absolutely no. I came here to get a gift. I do not want anything you are peddling. I already bought this before. I don't want any more of it. No, thank you. A massive F you in the face every single day. So I was like, you know what? I've seen a little bit of adversity before. I think I'm going to be okay. I think I can deal with this little adversity. And I became the Rookie of the Year for the world for timeshare. Fastest promoted director in the history of the company, top revenue speaker for the company worldwide 4 times in a year. I had gotten really good at it. I was also in the car business. I went all the way from selling cars to being a dealer principal owner of a store that I started. So I say all this to tell you that when I started my store on the side of the building in Oceanside on the coast, there's a lot of veterans and there's a lot of active duty military personnel. I made a massive 100-foot banner and it said, veteran owned and operated. So as you can imagine, one of my biggest clientele were veterans and active duty personnel. So the veterans would come and I would try to put together a car deal. And as you know, if you've sold anything, part of what goes into what you can afford is your payment to income. And they would be short. They would not have enough income to get the car they wanted. So I said, hey Fred, hey Harold, hey Denny, hey Bill, hey buddy, are you collecting any VA disability compensation? Are you getting any money from the government? And they would say, what is that? Where does this money come from? Never heard of this before. So I said, I tell you what, I'm gonna make your claim for you for free. This is before I was ever doing this. And when you get your back pay and when you start collecting, monthly income, I'm gonna get you a car. So I did this about 200 times. Veterans came to me, I made their claim, I got them a car, and then I started thinking, how many veterans are there? What does this look like? What is the landscape of veterans not getting paid what they are owed? Well, it turns out, if you look at a county just at San Diego, $4.5 billion a year go uncollected by our veterans in this county. Because 80% of veterans go in the grave with nothing. Part of it is their pride. Part of it is they don't know. Part of it is they're met with so much adversity that they just can't overcome it. And because of their PTSD and they've been let down so many times, veterans are quick like a hot potato to abandon things. So I said, this is a massive problem that we have in our country. We're letting people go serve, we're breaking them, we're hurting their psyche, and then we're just releasing them into the wild and good luck, thank you for your service. And we think that's enough. I don't think that's enough. Not after what happened to me. So I said, can I solve this problem? That's what I like to do, is solve problems. So I built VETCOMM, and what we do is get veterans through the adversarial process that is the VA. And we make their claims, and we prepare them, and we manage the entire process for them. Last calendar year, we did $924 million in lifetime income in owed compensation to veterans and their families. We partnered with a bunch of real estate agents and mortgage loan professionals, and they told us just in San Diego County, we're responsible for 100 new homeowners. Thank you. But it's, for me, if you own real estate, that's creating generational wealth. That's breaking generational curses on people. That's changing the trajectory of people's lives for generations. So VETCOMM is now a publicly traded company. Only 6-7 months ago, we had 5 employees doing about $15,000 a month. And now, this month, we're slated to do about $330,000 a month with 40 employees. And I can tell you that as proud as I am of the work that we do for our nation's veterans, I love getting up in the morning, and when my foot hits the ground, I realize that all the people that do our PR and all the people attached to my campaign and all the people that we employ at VETCOMM rely on Kate for their livelihood. I love employing people. I love empowering people and changing their life and having a really good understanding of what I directly did to change their lives. Nothing is more meaningful for me. So that's a little bit about me. Now, I have been in the news. As you can see, my newsreel has been playing this whole time. So I went out May 1st of this last year into San Diego to go and look at our homeless problem that we have. So I started with VETCOMM. We started our own charity called House the Heroes. And what we do is we partner with transitionary housing groups that have veterans that at some point hope to transition out into the real world. Well, I realized they need money. They need money, honey. It's really expensive to live in San Diego. So I said, could we go and put on big functions where we put a lot of veterans in the room and we can make all their claims and we can help them get prepared for all their meetings, and then they have money to transition with. But I thought, this is a little late in the game to be catching them. They're already off the street in transitionary housing. I wanted to understand, how did they get there? Why are you there? With all the resources, how could there possibly be 1,000 homeless people on the street just in our county? How is that possible with the wealth that we have here in San Diego, with all the resources that are provided specifically to veterans? How can this be? So the day before my birthday, I got on KUSI. They've been a blessing to me. I've been on about 50 times just on KUSI. I mentioned the rescue mission every chance I get. They're like, we're talking about the border and the rescue mission. I like to just shove it into every conversation I possibly can. Yeah. But I went and I said, I gotta understand this problem better. And I could not believe what I was met with when I went out to the bottoms in downtown San Diego. I did not know that there were 2,000 people in a few block radius in downtown San Diego. And when I asked other people if they knew that, they were like, there's no way there's 2,000 people in downtown San Diego. I said, there absolutely is. You will not believe it. Well, when I told the city, basically on the news, hey, I'm going to come expose you, when I got down there on my birthday, I was not out of the car for 20 minutes. There were 20 police cars on the street. They were cleaning the streets up, pretending to move people from one side of the street to the other side of the street. A van pulled up, and all the city officials got out, and they said, hey, Kate, we just want to let you know we're going to get this cleaned up for you. Like, basically, like, don't put us on the news. You know, don't tell the world that San Diego has this horrible of a homeless problem. We need tourism. We need to trick out all of our taxpayers into believing that we have a clean city. And I looked at them and I said, you've got a lot of work to do in your city. I'm sorry, but I absolutely will be bringing this to the national stage. And I shot a piece of footage that went viral on Fox News. And then it was on Fox News on every single channel. And that was kind of my foray into getting on the news. And now I have been on the news 100 times in the last 7 months. In the last 2 weeks, I've been in Newsweek, The Times, New York Post, OAN, Real America's Voice, KUSI, Trace Gallagher, 153 other publications. It's just gotten crazy. Somehow, what we're doing, talking about putting veterans into the conversation, no matter what it's about. Like, you want to talk about our open border? I could tell you how that affects veterans. I could tell you how it makes the country very unsafe, but I managed to shove veterans into every place I possibly can so that our country wakes up. So here's some of the things that Kate stands for, that she's working on, that I will do when I get there. I actually already crafted what's called the framework of the Veteran Entrepreneur Act. How many of you know that college is not necessarily everyone's pursuit? Not everyone is suited for college. Okay, so after going into the Marine Corps, and part of the reason I went in was to get the GI Bill, because I thought, okay, when I get through this, then I'm going to go to college. I don't think that everyone who thinks they're going to go in for college is going to get out and do it. So it's going to go to waste. So half the reason they went in is they're going to go by the wayside. The government's going to keep all that money. This new generation of kids, they want to be business owners. They want to be little entrepreneurs and CEOs and influencers. So I wrote legislation that would allow them to use their GI Bill funds to start a business. How many of you are business owners? A bunch of you. Oh my gosh. Well, there we go. So you probably like about yourself that you own a business, right? It's probably part of your whole brand, like who you are as employing other people. They want the same thing. So once I started to write this legislation, go back and forth to Washington, I realized, hey, I'm pretty good at writing legislation, getting bipartisan and bicameral support for a bill. I had many senators and congressmen tell me, hey, Kate, you would not believe what a good leader you would be here, how much work we could get done if you were here doing this work alongside of us. So that put that thought in my head, hey, maybe this is something I should pursue. Then I went out and visited the homeless. And I realized this is not just a San Diego problem, because when I got on national news, I started getting calls from across the country. Hey, Kate, can I buy you a plane ticket? Will you come here and put my city on the news? We are sick and tired of all the homeless, drugs, and lawlessness in our cities as well. It's not just a California problem. So then I said, okay. So now I'm good at writing legislation. I'm good at tackling this homeless issue. And then I said, what other solutions do I have? Well, when I started to tackle the homeless issue, I said, this housing first thing is just to make other people rich. The industry that is homelessness, the homeless industrial complex, wants to keep people homeless. That's how they make money. And the second you solve that problem, all the people that feed off of that problem suddenly have to go do something else awful. So they don't want to solve it. What they want to do is put people inside, 60% of which kill themselves through drugs, so they can put another body in that same bed a week later, and a week later, and a week later, on and on and on. It doesn't behoove them. It doesn't serve them to solve homelessness. So what is the solution? Well, it's not housing first. We know that. Because transition without transformation is futile, especially for the homeless person that you're helping. It's also horrible for them. So what I suggested is, after being in the Marines, I know what a forward operating base is, a FOB. And we can build a FOB very quickly. And the equipment to do so is sitting in warehouses on military bases all around. There's no reason we can't call a state of emergency and put one of those up. The National Guard can build one very quickly, and there will be a hooch, which is a massive tent with bunks, with a shower system, with a chapel, with a commissary, cafeteria, rehab, because people know, I've been on drugs for 20 years. Your 28-day program's not going to get me clean. Why even bother? Because if I go inside, you're going to throw away everything I own, and I'm going to start over again on the 29th day with nothing, in a vicious, endless cycle. So I think if we build one of these and bucketize people and figure out, why are you homeless? Are you circumstantially homeless? Like, you've been homeless 5 minutes? We got to get you out of here. We need to get you cleaned up, get you a job. You're the kind of person that should be inside in this transitionary housing, not somebody actively doing drugs in a tent. That's not your journey, is to go from the tent into a house. That's not how it works. So I think I'm a solution provider. So I'm going to provide solutions to veterans. I want to provide solutions to the homeless. And then I looked at the economy. The economy of everyone's household, no matter how high or low it is, isn't as good as it was a few years ago. We were never richer than we were. If we could get back in a time machine and go back a little, we were all enjoying our lives a little bit more. We had more money. We were having way more fun because we had more money. Our businesses were thriving. So what then is the solution? Well, performance-based funding. What we do now is, how many of you have ever hired a contractor to come and work on your house? Do you just pay and pray that they finish it and you give them all the money up front? Or do you do it in stages and you pay them as they go? As they complete something, you pay them. That is not what our government does. Our government gives all of the money, and then when you fail, guess what? You get more money. So why would I do a good job? Because I'm not going to get any more money, because I will have fixed it. So I'm going to do a horrible job. I'm going to do even worse than I did last year so that I can get more money. But if there was performance-based funding, most of the actors, the bad actors in the homeless game, would go away. And if you had a base camp and you forced all the services to ring around one place, it'd be very easy to see who is and who is not helping. Because if I go visit the homeless, and I go about every 3 weeks, 90% of them tell me I'm the last person that talked to them. And how many, Donnie, how many people are helping the homeless in San Diego? Hundreds of organizations are helping the homeless, but I'm the last one that talked to them. That's a problem, right? Then they said, Kate, how are you gonna run as a Republican in this light blue area? Because they're gonna ask you about abortion. What are you gonna say? Well, I had to think about it, because as I told you earlier in my story, I was assaulted. So I don't have the luxury of looking at the world without that, right? That's part of the lens in which I see the rest of the world. So I stayed in my bed and I prayed and I said, God, what would it take to solve this issue? Really, like, what is the solution? Because telling people you can't do it doesn't mean they won't. Telling people you can't shoot people doesn't make them not shoot people. People are going to do what they're going to do because they don't have another choice when it comes to abortion. It's like, I don't want this baby, so I'm going to get rid of it. We don't have a good solution. So I said, what is the solution? So Jason and I, my chairman, he and I have been crafting legislation called the Adoption Acceleration Act. I would like it to be a third-party REIT where you would pay to be part of it. If you're an adoptive parent and you want to adopt kids, you would pay a fee to be vetted, pay a fee that would cover the insurance REIT that would pay for all of the births, and a voucher for every baby that was delivered. That way, if you're 16, 17, 18, 30, however old you are, and you get pregnant with a baby you don't want, you could get on your cell phone on an app and choose a family and be well on your way to bringing that baby to life. Because here's a very interesting thing. If you know who Britney Spears is, fan of her or not, in her book, she talks about the thing that derailed her life was having an abortion. So while it might seem like a good temporary fix, it seems good right now, because right now I don't want to have a baby. Extrapolate that out further. Do that when you're 20, but try to have a baby when you're 30 and you can't. You're going to tell yourself it's because you did this bad thing and God wants to punish you, and it ruins your life and it steals your joy. So if we can provide people a space to be able to have an adoption, that would actually give them an alternate choice, and the Adoption Acceleration Act would unburden the foster care system and all these kids that can't get adopted easily. We made it nearly impossible to get into our country, so we create problems. We make adoption almost impossible, so no kids can get adopted. We need to have better policy. We need to be thinking of solutions. And this is what I want to provide our country. Lastly, I want to talk about the border. As a Marine Corps veteran who was in the intelligence field, I want to tell you, from me to you, we are not safe. We've never been less safe than we are right now. And here's why. We're in the middle of the biggest recruiting crisis that we have ever had. We're 20% below numbers. And that's not even the real number, because that 20% deficit includes the delayed entry program already being called up. So the delayed entry program is our bench strength. All the kids who are supposed to be staged to go into the service in stages. We got so low, we called them all up, and we're still 20% short. Why? Why is that? Why don't kids want to go in the military anymore? Well, there's a lack of patriotism. There's massive wokeism in the services. We made college free. We have made it nearly impossible for kids who would have served because of generational. 82% of people that serve had a parent or a grandparent. They're doing it generational. This generation is going to end that generational service. We have to wake up as a country, because we have a recruiting crisis, we have an open border, and as much as we like to be compassionate, we want to help the homeless. I want to help the homeless. I have a lot of compassion, but I have compassion for Americans. We're in America. Our open border is bringing in terrorism, sex trafficking, child sex trafficking, drugs. The cartels completely control our border. So my solution for the border is we declare a state of emergency in our country. We call up the military, the National Guard. We protect our border while we simultaneously build the wall, charge those in Washington with the treason that they perpetrated on our country, and let multiple acts of war from other countries get perpetrated here. You go down to the border, you think a bunch of cute little families are crossing? Absolutely not. Military-age men are crossing the border. I have been down there several times. And you want to know why they call them migrants? Because they're literally like birds migrating from places they do not belong on very foreign soil, getting flown here, and then getting coordinated by the cartel coming across our border, and then we bust them around, give them plane tickets and food and water, and send them wherever we can in the country. And you know why we do that? I'll tell you why. It's because the Democrats want to stuff as many of these people into their districts so that they can sweep by 2030, when the new census gets counted, all these people that they're planting in all these districts are going to completely sway it in their generation. The left is always playing the long game. They're like the mob. They're forcing us always to play cleanup. We need to do a better job and really understand the gravity of the situation that we're facing. And I think that's a differentiator between me and most other candidates running in the country, quite frankly. I have a very good understanding of what's going on in our foreign affairs, military affairs. I understand veterans, the homeless, the border, the economy. I was on a panel, and I'm going to close with this. I was on a panel with all the other Republican candidates, and they asked us one really interesting question. I thought it was a good question. They said, what is the one issue that you would reach across the aisle on to solve? And I love going last. Somebody said, well, I would reach across the aisle on EV cars. That would be the one thing that I would solve when I get to Congress. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, EV cars, not the top of my list, not even the top 5. I drive a Tesla, but it's not the thing I'm going to protect when I get there. The next person said, well, I would protect our beaches so that we can keep our tourism here in San Diego. Now, I live in San Diego, and like you, I love the beach. And I appreciate the tourism that we have here in San Diego. But after I heard this, I stood up and I said, quite frankly, if we don't secure our border, you're not going to have to worry about your EV cars and your beach and your tourism. You're losing your country by the second. It's clipping by. The sand is running out of the hourglass, and you're worried about EV cars. We don't need any more nice politicians in the country. What we need is 911. America is burning, and I'm your first responder. If your house was on fire, would you call a plumber? No, you call the fire department. You call the police to come and take care of it. That's where we're at in our country. We need more people like me that will step up and say, enough is enough is enough. That's all I have. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.